Hi, I'm Rob Robillard and you're at concretecarpenter.com. Today's product review, we're taking a look at a custom wood countertop that I ordered from DeVos Custom Woodworking. DeVos Custom Woodworking is a small mill shop just outside of Austin, Texas. Family owned. They do all custom stuff. They do things like custom solid countertops to islands to butcher block to all kinds of different materials, from mahogany to walnut to mesquite to there's Texas walnut, there's Texas pecan, they have cherry, teak, and so many more different kinds of materials that you can get these countertops out of. I chose walnut, and I also chose a distressed walnut, and they distressed it for me as well, and they did the edging and the coatings, which we'll talk about. A couple of things that you want to think about when you're ordering or thinking about a wood countertop. First of all, they're super easy to maintain. If you scratch them or damage them, you can just lightly sand them and recoat them. They are sanitary. They're easily to disinfect. You just wash it with soap and water, but if you needed to disinfect it, you would use just a solution of water and vinegar, spray it on, and the vinegar disinfects. They are great looking and a little bit of sound deafening too. For instance, if you had a dishwasher underneath the counter and you had a wood countertop, it actually keeps some of the noise down, which is a nice benefit. The things that I found that I liked the most about dealing with DeVos Custom Woodworking was the ease of communication. I had one person I dealt with the entire time until the countertop was being made, and I actually got a call from the guy who was building the countertop, and he asked me some specific questions because I was the one installing it. He had very specific questions and concerns he wanted to go over with me. I loved that. I loved the communication. They were great to deal with. Really easy company. I thought the price, the value that I paid was well worth it as well. Let's talk about what I did. First of all, you got to figure out what you want. I decided on walnut, but they have all kinds of different flavors of wood that you can pick. The second decision is the grain. Do you want to do face grain, end grain, or edge grain? I went with face grain, so the boards are the width is the longer way, not the edge. And I went with a face grain. But they have all those different options that you can choose from, as well as, you know, how you arrange your strips. You could do full-length boards, like I did. This is only about 7 feet long, so I went with full-length boards joined together to make this slab. You could do random pattern boards or specific patterns. Anything you want, they'll do it custom. The second thing was the edging. I chose an edging. They have all kinds of edgings. I chose a kind of a simple OG kind of edge. But they have things from softened edges, which is just a slight round over. They have full round over. They can do bullnose. They can do chamfer, Roman OG. I'm trying to think of some of the edging. They had a bell curve. They had a classical edge. They had a bead and cove edge. Basically, anything that they make a router bit for, they can pretty much make an edge for you. And so if you're trying to match something, maybe some edging or some molding on the countertops or some furniture in the room, they could probably do that as well, as long as you gave them a profile of that. The third thing I wanted to talk about is the finish. They offer two types of finish. It depends on what you're going to use the countertop for. One finish is called waterlocks. It's an oil-based, waterproof finish. Kind of like a polyurethane, like we would call polyurethane, but it's a much more durable product, high quality product. It doesn't peel, it doesn't chip, it's super easy to maintain. You don't have to do much with it, it's done. You wouldn't use that as a cutting surface. It's not a cutting board. If you wanted to use this as a cutting board, or you were making this as a cutting surface, you would use a tung oil with a citrus finish. And the tung oil is FDA approved, it's non-toxic, it's safe to use. The thing about tung oil finishes is every 6 months to a year you have to reapply it. So there's a maintenance involved with tung oil. Any finish that the DeVos Custom Woodworking apply, they typically will apply 4 coats of finish on the top and 3 coats on the bottom and the edges that are not being seen. If this were going to be mounted with a sink in it or in a water area, they would do 6 coats. So they would ask you those questions. So those are the things I had to decide before I ordered the countertop. The next thing is I had to work on the ordering process, and again, the communication was excellent. They take a 50% deposit and 50% when they ship it out to you. Then we talk about templating and drawings, and what I had to do is I had to go get some oak tag material, which is a hard cardboard construction paper, and I had to make a template. The reason why I made a template is because this wall is wavy back here, and there's a notch cut out down here by the door casing. So I made them a template, and they actually made the waviness of the wall on the back of the countertop so I could push this right in, and they cut the notch out as well so I could slide it in. If this were just an island, I could just probably give them a rectangular dimensions or whatever, and they could make it. But I wanted to describe it. I gave them a template. I shipped it to them, and that's when the fabricator called me and we discussed the template and things like that. After the templating, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to arrive. And it comes in a crate, beautifully crated and beautifully packaged, wrapped in protective wrapping. I was super impressed in this operation. It was, from start to finish, it was easy, super high quality. I'll show some close-up pictures on my posting in the blog about this, so you can see the actual finish of it. Really, really nice. The next step of this is we're going to show you how to install a wood countertop. We're going to talk a little bit about wood movement and a few tips and techniques that you might want to consider before you install something like this. Okay, a couple of things that we didn't talk about when we're going to install this countertop is we talked a little bit about how I did a template and I sent it to DeVos Woodworking. Why do you do a template? You do a template obviously to properly fit anything that's wood up against irregular surfaces or uneven surfaces, stuff like that. You also do a template to minimize error. I ended up having to plane a little bit to get it to fit the way I wanted, even with the template, so there's always some adjustments to do. So talk a little bit about fitting this countertop, or let's talk about wood movement for a second. Wood moves. Wood's natural occurring material. It's going to move. It's going to move with heat, cold, humidity, especially humidity. A countertop that's at least 25 inches wide like this one is going to move anywhere from a 1/16 to 3/16 of an inch. So it will move over the course of the seasons and time. And we need to allow for wood movement. If we don't, we're going to cause problems like buckling or cracking or things like that. So the way we do that is along the back edge, we call it the fixed edge. Along the back edge we drill a 3/16 hole along the back edge, and we put a screw through the cabinet, up through here and into the countertop. And we don't want to go, we probably want to go about halfway through the countertop. The countertop's 2 inches, so let's probably go about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches plus this. So I'll probably use 1 5/8 screw, 1 3/4, something like that. And on the middle and the fronts, and all along the front and middle edges, I drilled 3/8 holes. And basically, this allows the screw to move with the wood, if the wood chooses to move. What I'll do is I will drill a pilot hole for this screw through the center of this hole. So it'll go into the countertop tightly, but it will move back and forth, side to side, whatever, probably back and forth. It's going to move this way with the countertop. It's kind of an elongated hole a little bit, and it just allows it to move a little bit, that's all. I'm going to put a washer, just a little 3/8, 1/4 inch, 3/8 washer on my screw head so that it doesn't come through the hole, and it holds it down, but it will allow it to move. So we're ready to mount this countertop. All I have to do is just clear this off, put this back down, pre-drill, and screw it on. One thing I'll do is I'll put a little piece of blue tape on my drill bit so that I don't drill through the countertop. We don't want to do that. We only want to go in a little ways, just enough for the screw to go in. So let's get started. All done. It was a piece of cake to install. One thing I want to mention is I did have to scribe a little bit extra because it wasn't quite as perfect or where I needed it to be. DeVos Custom Woodworking gave me a small packet of their water locks stain, their finish. And so I made sure and I sealed all the edges that I cut because anything that's unsealed, any fresh cut edges, can attract moisture and humidity. So we want to make sure we seal those edges. Like I said, I pre-drilled through those holes that I drilled in the cabinets. I pre-drilled up into the countertop. I put my screws in. It's down nice and secure. It looks great. It fits great. It's a really nice product. From start to finish, this was a really, really nice product to work with and a great company to work with. I enjoyed working with them. Like I said, probably the best thing about the company was their communication. And obviously the product is wonderful as well. I'm Rob Robillard. You are at AConcordCarpenter.com, and we'll see you at the next tool review. Take care.